I recorded the first 15 minutes of this video and then realized I wasn't recording. Let's talk about Venom. Venom: The Last Dance came out recently, and some of you don't know how to fucking act. I'm gonna start this off by saying, yes, Venom 3 is a bad movie. Venom 2 is a bad movie. Venom 1, bad movie. What I'm about to talk about is a blatant disrespect for the cornerstone of queer representation these days, and I'm dead serious. I think it would probably help to talk about what Venom means to me personally. In 2018, I was coming out of my shell. I just started high school. I was learning things about myself and making new friends in the local Smash scene. My friend Banjo at the time, who I'm still friends with, and he's not named after the bear, we created this bit. It wasn't really our idea, but, you know, the Venom Eminem song. It was hilarious. We bonded over it. We got closer. Venom 2 rolls around. I'm living with my partner at the time. We watch it. It's very unabashedly queer. When this movie was announced, it being called The Last Dance got me excited because I thought that they would finally go the full mile and say I love you in this one. They didn't, but that's okay. Oh yeah, spoilers also for Venom 3, The Last Dance. This is pretty much your only warning. I'm gonna spoil the movie. Before I get into my rants about Venom being queer, Venom being blah blah blah, I want to talk about something that I have heard people say over and over again. Venom can't work without Spider-Man. This just isn't true. The Venom run by Kate and Stegman is one of the best stories I've ever read. Granted, I'm not the biggest comic reader in the world, but I'm trying to get to more of it. But what this shows is that Venom can work by himself. Hey. Just, yeah, take your time. Yeah, no rush, man. I'm gonna put you over there. Okay. What the fuck? The Venomnibus shows that symbiotes and symbiote lore and Eddie and Venom as characters are enough to drive their own story, and Venom doesn't need to be hellbent on hating Spider-Man to exist. Characters that resonate with audiences can work on their own as long as they resonate with the audience. It doesn't matter if you think that this movie is unwatchable because Venom doesn't have the spider symbol on his chest, or because he lives in a world without Peter Parker and he's not from New York and then he moves to San Francisco. What matters most is, are the characters resonating with audiences? And yes, Venom and Eddie resonate with audiences heavily. I don't think I have to tell you about how many people love Venom and his stories. I've heard people say, oh, well, he just took care of Noel's lapdog in this movie. To me, this reads as you wanted a big MCU fight where Venom beat the bad guy. What's funny is I've heard people who say not every superhero movie needs to end with a big CGI fight say that this movie should have ended with Venom defeating Null. But the point of this movie isn't Venom is cool and strong and powerful. The point of this movie is to learn to live with what life gives you. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this movie is really breaking new ground by having the heroes, lose or having a big sacrifice play at the end, because it's not, and it's not a super deep movie, and I'm not even trying to say that the movie itself is incredible or groundbreaking. What I am trying to say is that saying Venom by himself doesn't work because you can't get invested in the villains of the movie, or they're just not good enough to hold your attention, is a really flimsy criticism, and it's a you problem. Now, before I get into the queer stuff, I do want to talk a little bit about, yes, this movie sucks. A lot of the setup on Agony's host, Dr. Payne, is really boring. I don't care about Dr. Payne. I don't care about any of the doctors. I kind of liked how they did Rex Strickland in this movie. I think it's cool that he instantly reacts and is like, hey, if Noel stops coming here and the Xenovages stop coming here, if we kill Eddie Brock, why don't we just fucking kill Eddie Brock? That makes sense. I like that. I've heard people say this movie is also boring and lacks soul. I don't know if we were watching the same movie, but it felt like a 70-30 split between Eddie and the boring shit. What I think people are counting as setup is anything involving Noel, since he's going to be in the MCU or some other Sonyverse project, but that's setting up this movie's villain too. The whole beginning scene with Mulligan and whatever the green symbiote he has is, that is part of this movie. That isn't some other boring shit where they're setting up Agony or any other universe. It's not like they're cutting away for 4 minutes to be like, well, what was Kraven doing at this time? That's set up for this movie's villain. It's cryptic, it's cool, and they did Null really well. I like it, and I read the comics. What this movie ends up essentially covering is the first chunk of the Venomnibus until Venom dies and says I love you to Eddie, when they are just defeating a symbiote that was attached to Null. Obviously, it does it in a very different way. We don't have other Marvel heroes for Venom to bounce off of, or for them to realize, like, hey, what's happening? What's going on with this invasion? I'm going to be completely honest with you. This ending made me sob harder than I have in years. I knew going in that the Maroon 5 song played at the credits. They're near the ending, right before the credits. And I think if I didn't know that, I would have thought, man, that's a really shitty pick. But this series has kind of always played into the we're an early 2000s superhero movie. And I think that using a really funny song like that during an emotional ending is kind of perfect for the ending of the trilogy, no? Venom having to sacrifice himself and Eddie being left just to remember everything they had was heartfelt. It was a perfect end to the trilogy. And people say this movie is soulless and only set up, and I just don't agree with that, because this movie is at least 60 plus minutes of Venom and Eddie doing random bullshit and having fun. And if that's not what you like, then you've had 2 movies to figure that out, and you shouldn't have watched the 3rd one. Something I want to say is that this movie also felt more like a comic book than most movies I've ever watched. There are scenes in comics, you're going to be reading a run you really like, and then you're going to get to a scene where it's just like blah 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 fucking blah. And that happens. This movie, more than anything, understands its fans and is a love letter to Venom the character and his universe and all queer superhero fans everywhere. Now we're gonna fucking talk about it. I have had to sit through 2 movies saying I'm reading too far into it. Oh, Venom and Eddie aren't in a relationship. He's a symbiote. Oh, the thing about them bickering like a married couple back and forth, that's just for jokes. I'll be honest. Sometimes I read too far into things. Sometimes I shove queer headcanons where there absolutely are none. But when you have a character whose basis is symbiotically coexisting, and you flesh out the characters through a trilogy, yeah, I'm gonna think they're gay for each other. Venom 1 kind of shoehorns it, because at some point a switch flips, and Venom's like, damn, I love this planet. Damn, I love you, Eddie. And it's a little unnatural, sure. Venom 2 establishes their love. They have a breakup at the beginning, and then they get back together. The movie ends with them fighting in a church while being together, and they say, we can beat them because we're together. We have symbiosis. Carnage doesn't. It's like getting hit on the fucking head with a bat that says these characters are gay and in love. But some people just say it's still reading too far into it, or just for jokes. And, like, if you want to think that, whatever. But, like, we can't be friends. I've seen a lot of people also say that the same point is rehashed all 3 movies, where, will they, won't they live together? They can't do it. That's just not true, because in the first movie, it feels a little fake and forced, which is fair. But by the end of it, they learn to live together. And in the second movie, Eddie's morals are being tested, and they learn to live together. Venom 3, it shows that they are so symbiotic, they are so comfortable living together at this point, that Eddie barely even flinches whenever Venom's talking to him anymore. There's no awkward, like, oh, Venom said something and Eddie responded to it, and the other guy is like, what? That happens maybe twice in the whole movie. There are multiple moments in this movie where Eddie or Venom get back together and they're like, I can't let you die, I need you to live. They're so I shouldn't have to spell it out like this. Venom, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and Venom The Last Dance are maybe bad movies. But to me, and a lot of people out there, they are the most important superhero trilogy. And I'm not ashamed to say that this trilogy means more to me than most other movies ever. Venom The Last Dance represents more than just Sony or the MCU or how they're gonna merge. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm able to look past the fact that they set up a boring character to have a boring symbiote, and most of it might be setting up the universes or trying to find a way to merge the Sonyverse and the MCU together. But I feel like if that's all you're getting from this movie, we weren't going for the same reason. I didn't really record this video with a goal in mind or a final closing message to make. I kind of just wanted to passionately ramble about this because it means a lot to me. And I'm willing to have any and all conversations in the comments about anything. Whatever you think, I'll respect it. I'm not in the business of disrespecting people and saying that the way you viewed this movie was wrong. If you hated it, you think it's schlock, and you think it's just Sonyverse bullshit, we can talk about it if you want. I think the most important thing is that we have mutual respect for each other's opinions. In conclusion, Venom The Last Dance is the best comic book movie ever made.